Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I also want to thank you for being here and your testimony, not once, not twice, but a third time, and so I appreciate that very much. And I want to move into another area a little bit, and maybe you can help me understand a few things. And just to be clear, I oppose the legislation. I don't support the legislation. If my comments appear to some to be political in nature, it's because I don't trust what it is that we are doing. So just wanted to put that on the table on the outset. Let me ask you to start with this. Are you still actively campaigning for your preferred settlement?
Congressman, you mean in the mortgage servicer, where the mortgage servicers?
Yes.
This is an effort that is led by the Department of Justice.
No, but are you still actively campaigning for your preferred settlement?
Am I still no, Congressman, but I'm not. I just want to be careful about the premise here. I'm not sure what kind of campaign I've ever had, but.
Well, haven't you been? I mean, isn't there a preferred settlement option that you think is right, and haven't you been out kind of campaigning around the country for that?
Around the country?
Yeah, the country.
On a settlement for mortgage servicers? No, sir, I don't
okay,
think so.
So you haven't been campaigning for a preferred settlement?
Look.
Have you or haven't you?
Congressman, I don't think I understand what you mean.
Okay. Have you been engaged in trying to convince people that your point of view is right in a settlement?
Congressman, I'm always engaged in trying to persuade people that my point of view is right.
Okay. So, but have you been doing that with attorney generals around the country or the private industries, banks?
I don't think I've had a conversation with anybody in private industry about mortgage settlement for months. And
but you have stated that that these are negotiations with the private parties are entirely directed by the Department of Justice, by the state's attorneys generals, and by other federal agencies.
Congressman, I think if I'm following the same thing you're reading, the negotiations over settling the wrongdoing.
All right, I'm sorry, because my time is going to go by, and I want to get to some specific things. So you have been saying that you're only giving advice. Does that advice mean to seek out meetings with states, attorney generals in different states?
If it is helpful, I've been glad to talk with attorneys general, sir.
Does that mean you give advice to private parties to the settlement?
To private parties?
All right, maybe this will help you. We have I'd like to put an email, a document up on the screen if we could. Number 1, please. This is a copy of an email from the Iowa's Assistant Attorney General to someone with CFPB on February 24th, 2011, where he states that it is my understanding that you, Ms. Warren, would like to make a loan mod presentation to the Executive Committee, which is referring to the National Association of Attorneys General. We would like to do this. Did your presentation give advice on the mortgage settlement?
Congressman, I think you might want to look at the email that preceded this, because as I recall, there's an email that precedes this.
Did you give advice on your preferred settlement?
Congressman,
I
gave advice.
Let's go to the...
you know, I'd ask unanimous consent. The gentlemen have 2 more minutes. In return, please, Ms. Warren, go ahead and finish your answer. I want it to be the time necessary to get a full answer and the additional follow-up questions, additional 2 minutes.
But I'll try to be as right to the point. The first point is, I think this email says that I was soliciting to make a loan presentation, and since you had started your question there, I simply wanted to say, I think if you look at the earlier emails, there may have been some misunderstanding. I was asked by the Attorney General of Illinois, I think it was, to make this presentation. It was their idea. The second question about did I talk with the Attorney Generals and give them advice? Yes, I certainly did. Yes, sir.
That you gave advice on your preferred settlement?
Sir, I said things I thought were right. Yes.
Okay. But haven't you been saying that that you haven't been participating or in these things? Hasn't your quote been that that you've been giving advice to Secretary of Treasury and other federal agencies, but you have been avoiding answering this pretty simple question? I mean, the question we want to know is, are you out there trying to part of the negotiations on this settlement?
Congressman, on April 4th, I said we've provided advice to federal and state officials regarding a potential servicing settlement. In doing so, we have been an active participant in interagency discussions, sharing our analysis and recommendations in support of a resolution that would hold accountable any servicers who violated the law. It also says in this letter the consumer agency is not conducting settlement negotiations with mortgage servicers.
Okay. Have you talked to any private servicers, private industry about the settlement?
We have not engaged in negotiations with any of those who are alleged to have violated the law.
Okay, let me ask you this. If we can put up document 4. And here's an email from the Chief Executive Officer of Wells Fargo to you on February 25th, 2011 with the subject mortgage. And he wrote to you, would you be interested in discussing what the press is reporting on speculated terms and conditions to settle the mortgage servicing issues? You replied later that day, I apologize for not getting back to you earlier, and then you gave him your cell phone number to call over the weekend. What did you and the CEO of Wells Fargo discuss about mortgage servicing issues?
I started that conversation by saying that I am not able to negotiate or discuss the settlement negotiations with you in any way, shape, or form.
And was that the end of the conversation?
I am sorry, but I am not able to do that.
That was the end of the conversation?
Yes, sir, it was.
And then the last document, if we can put up document 5.
If the gentleman would make this his last question.
This is my last question. Document 5, in an email to, I believe it's Mr. Date, the Associate Director of CFPB, to the Executive Vice President of P.J. Morgan Chase on February 24, 2011, with the subject Monday Agenda. And he wrote, given persistent rumors and headlines, I do not want this meeting to be construed as relating to any potential settlement discussions or regulatory enforcement actions. And I think that the meeting really has to be off the record. Why was Mr. Date so worried about the meeting being construed as relating to any potential settlement?
Well, he wanted to make clear, as we have with all of the mortgage servicers whom we have spoken with them, that we are not engaged in any kind of settlement negotiations. As Mr. Date explained in his testimony, and I'm glad to explain, we've been receiving information and requests from people throughout the industry. We are standing up an agency and we are trying to understand how this industry works. But we have been completely unambiguous in telling participants we are not part of the settlement negotiations.
So you still stand by the fact that you are not actively campaigning for your preferred settlement?
Congressman,
It's yes or no. Yes, you are, or no, you're not.
I just don't know what you mean by the word campaigning. If it means I think my ideas are good and I would rather have
And are
people
you
follow
actively
mine.
campaigning with the participant?
We are not talking to the participants about mortgage servicing.
Is there potential?
Mr. Chairman, regular order.
Is there a resolution?
No, the gentleman, I apologize, but your time really has expired.